Have you ever wondered how certain brands, especially in really competitive markets like beauty, manage to become, well, more than just products?
Yeah, how do they build that intense, almost cult-like following? It's fascinating.
It's like they're not just selling lipstick, they're starting a whole movement.
Exactly. And these cult brands, they really stand out, often by doing things completely differently, challenging how the industry usually works.
Absolutely. And today we're doing a deep dive into a prime example, Glossier.
Ah, Glossier. Good one.
Our mission here is to really unpack their strategy, figure out how they became such a favorite, and, what really makes them tick. So let's start at the beginning. How did Glossier even get going? It wasn't exactly a typical corporate launch.
Not at all. It actually grew out of a beauty blog into the Gloss, which Emily Weiss started back in 2010.
Right, from her apartment, wasn't it?
Yeah, which is, pretty unconventional for a brand that became such a big player.
So what was the idea behind it, moving from blog to actual products?
Well, the founder's vision seems really clear from the start. It was about celebrating beauty as part of women's overall expression.
Okay.
And she wanted to build the first genuinely socially driven beauty brand.
What did socially driven mean in practice, though?
It meant fundamentally treating customers as their own experts, really centering them. And technology was key, enabling that sort of friend-to-friend, peer-to-peer info sharing. Consumers got to shape the story.
And that focus, putting the consumer first, it shaped a whole different look and feel for the brand, too, right?
Precisely. They made a very deliberate choice strategically to step away from that hypersexualized glam look.
Which is everywhere in beauty.
It really is. Their goal was more about enabling women to, well, do less. They focused on creating these modern-day essentials that just, enhance natural beauty.
Kind of like a minimalist approach?
Sort of, yeah. And
Yeah.
the idea was that this philosophy could unite women from all sorts of backgrounds, celebrating what's already there instead of pushing for a big transformation.
And that really clicked with people, didn't it? It created this incredible level of trust. The materials we looked at showed people sharing selfies. Some even in their bathrooms, showing the products in use. That's an intimacy you just don't usually get with a brand.
No, it's very personal. It suggests it's more than just makeup. It's about sharing an experience, almost an identity.
Right. That authenticity seems absolutely key to building that strong community feel.
It is.
And speaking of community, those pop-up stores. Our sources talked about people waiting in line for up to 5 hours.
Crazy, right.
Insane. And not just for products. They wanted the free stuff, the cupcakes.
Yeah.
It was an event.
It really showed intense engagement, not just loyalty. People were there to experience Glossier.
Yeah, it says a lot about their unique position. It makes me think about strategic differentiation. How does Glossier fit into that idea?
Oh, it's a perfect fit. It's a great example of what Michael Porter talked about.
Oh, right, the strategy guru.
Exactly. His idea wasn't about trying to be the best in a fight with competitors. It was about doing different things to create new value, maybe even expand the whole market.
So not just taking a bigger slice, but baking a new kind of pie.
That's a good way to put it. Glossier didn't just fight for existing beauty customers. They cultivated a new kind of beauty consumer, a new kind of experience.
Which is pretty bold when you think about the beauty market reality.
Yeah.
Our research really highlighted how it's dominated by these huge companies like L'Oreal with hundreds of brands.
Massive portfolios.
Yeah. And Glossier just decided, nope, we're going to be our own thing, a standalone brand with our own identity. That takes guts.
It really does. Serious conviction. And a big part of that unique approach was how they involved the customer right in the product development itself.
Okay, so how does that work? How did they actually make their stuff differently?
Well, think about traditional methods first. Focus groups, maybe some surveys through third parties.
Right, which can be slow, maybe a bit filtered.
Exactly. Glossier flipped that. They empowered customers to be their own experts, telling the brand directly what worked, what didn't, what they wanted. It created this real-time feedback loop.
Real-time sounds powerful. Any examples?
Yeah, the material mentioned one about using social media comments, people saying a mascara was clumpy.
Okay.
And Glossier apparently took that feedback and actually reformulated the product.
Wow, just based on comments.
Seems like it. It's that direct, immediate response. It reminds me a bit of how Zara, the fast fashion brand, changes designs super quickly based on what shoppers are actually buying and saying.
That's incredibly agile.
It is. Driven by the consumer, bypassing the old gatekeepers.
It also makes me think about makeup routines. Sometimes they take forever. Did Glossier's simpler approach change that for users?
That's a good point. The sources suggested that for some users, particularly millennials, Glossier's simpler products actually sped things up. Less complicated, easier to use.
Interesting. So this direct line to the consumer, it must have shaped their marketing too.
Absolutely. It allowed them to really focus their targeting. They zeroed in on millennials and Gen Z women.
Right. The digital natives.
Exactly. They understood their preferences, their online habits, how they engage with brands differently.
And that led to different spending priorities, presumably.
It did. Here's a really key insight from the deep dive. When customers were asked about where Glossier should invest in the future, they overwhelmingly chose things like loyalty programs and direct-to-consumer influencer marketing, not traditional paid media like Google ads or TV commercials.
So the old ways just don't work as well with this group.
It really suggests they don't. They trust different voices, different channels.
Which brings us to influencers.
Right. The power shift is huge. The material gave a specific example, a 27-year-old influencer making at least $5,000 a month just from ad agencies for featuring products.
Wow, that's serious money.
It shows where the trust and the marketing dollars are flowing, from big media outlets to individual creators.
So all this ties back to Glossier's own self-image, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They see themselves fundamentally differently.
They do. They've actually described themselves as primarily a tech company whose business is beauty products.
A tech company first, that's fascinating.
It is. Obviously, the revenue comes from selling the products, but the way those products are developed is deeply integrated with their community, using technology, feedback loops.
So the products are almost like an outcome of the community interaction.
That's a great way to think about it. It lets them merchandise stories, focus on engagement, not just transactions.
It reminds me a bit of early Amazon, Jeff Bezos, saying he wanted a platform where customers could make informed choices, even see negative reviews, not just push sales.
That's a really interesting parallel. It's about building trust through transparency and community input.
And the results speak for themselves, right? What was that word-of-mouth statistic?
Astonishing. Apparently, 70% of their business is driven by word of mouth. 70%.
Incredible.
And another stat from the sources that underlines this, something like 80–90% of Americans trust online comments from strangers as much as they trust a recommendation from someone they know.
80 to 90%. Wow. That just shows the immense power of that social validation online.
It really does.
But no brand is perfect.
Yeah.
Even one built so strongly on community must face challenges.
Oh, definitely. And the sources didn't shy away from that. There was some critical commentary.
Like.
Well, one viewpoint described Glossier's aesthetic, maybe its vibe, as resembling a mean girl in the beauty industry who ended up being kind of nice.
Okay. What's the risk there?
It highlights the potential danger when a brand's identity is super closely tied to its founder's personality. If that persona becomes controversial or rubs people the wrong way, it can really hit the brand hard.
That makes sense. Were there other, more serious issues raised?
Yes. The research also touched on some serious allegations regarding racial discrimination involving retail staff, incidents that were apparently dismissed by management initially.
That's obviously a major issue.
A huge issue. The sources noted that Glossier did make efforts later to address diversity in its stores, but it really underscores how vital it is for a brand to actually live its values.
Especially for that target audience, right? Millennials and Gen Z, they seem to care deeply about authenticity and inclusivity.
Absolutely. It's not just about PR for them. They expect brands to walk the talk. If there's a disconnect between the brand's image and its actions, especially on something like discrimination, that community they rely on will notice and they will react.
It raises that important point about values, too.
Exactly. The founder herself faced significant hurdles, right? Getting those 11 no's from male VCs before a female VC finally invested.
Yeah, a $2 million investment, finally.
Right. But experiencing discrimination yourself doesn't give you a pass to let it happen elsewhere in your organization. For today's consumers, especially the younger ones, those core values, authenticity, inclusivity, they're non-negotiable. They judge the whole company on that.
So it's about consistent action, not just words or a compelling origin story.
Precisely.
Okay, so considering all this, the unique model, the successes, the bumps in the road, what did the sources suggest about Glossier's future? Where could they go next?
Well, several strategic paths seemed clear. One is expanding the product lines. Think body care, maybe new fragrances, even candles, perhaps, or hair care for that sort of effortless hair vibe that fits their aesthetic.
Makes sense. Keep it within the brand world.
Yeah. Then there's enhancing services, things like subscription models. People rebuy basics, right?
Wow.
Loyalty programs, maybe more tech integration like virtual try-on tools using your phone's camera.
Cool. Personalization.
Yeah, exactly. And finally, broadening their reach geographically, looking at major international cities or maybe even developing localized product variations for different markets.
That ties into that whole omni-channel thing too, doesn't it?
Mm.
People wanting both online ease and real-world experiences.
It does. In Glossier's physical stores, the showrooms, they're becoming more than just shots. The sources describe them almost as landmarks for fans.
Places to experience the brand, not just buy stuff.
Right. It deepens that community connection, makes people feel part of the whole ecosystem.
So when you boil it all down, Glossier's secret sauce seems to be this blend. Community first, tech-enabled, prioritizing authenticity and what consumers actually want over just, traditional marketing and glamour.
It's a really potent, modern mix, and it's happening within this absolutely enormous global beauty market.
Right, what were those figures again?
Currently around $450 billion globally,
Wow.
and projected to hit $750 billion in about 6 years. It's massive.
So the potential is huge.
Definitely. And Glossier's story really drives home the point that for today's consumers, things like trust in the community, feeling aligned with a brand's values, that authenticity, it often matters way more than just getting a product quickly or seeing a slick ad.
It really makes you think. What does Glossier's journey, both the wins and the challenges, tell us about building brands today, where having that engaged community and being true to your values seems just as important, if not more so, than the product itself?
It's a fundamental shift.
And maybe, how could you, listening, apply some of those insights from a tech company whose business is beauty to whatever challenges or industries you're working in?